Hi sea stars! Welcome back to my channel. I am not in my usual spots in my room, so you might hear a lot of outside noise because I'm outside. Okay. I switched hands so I could show off my tattoo. That was the only reason. I am sitting by the water on my lunch break. It's a beautiful harbor and it's just so calm and peaceful, and being out by the water after being cooped up in an office all day is like absolutely indescribable. It's amazing. There's also going to be some movement in this video because I need to get the sun onto my back to even out a really bad tan line, so we're going to do that. And I'm going to tell you guys signs that you might be a sea witch. I got a question in a reading the other night, which if you guys don't know, I do readings channeled specifically through my mermaid spirits. You guys can find all the information down below. I got a question the other day that was like, I've been getting this dream for months that I'm being called to the water, and I don't know what it means. It just got me thinking about how many people have been receiving this call recently, because this is not the only way that I've heard it phrased before, but it was the first time that someone had asked me this in a reading, and my spirits were very much like, you need to tell people, like you need to tell people, like, this is their sign, like this is the water, like we are calling you, like give them the signs. So that's what we're doing today. This is going to be signs that you might be a sea witch, or that the path that I walk might be one that is also calling to you. There are people also you're going to see walking this path behind me that are definitely going to be looking at me like I'm crazy during this video, so please enjoy, because I really wanted to do this outside for you. And there's also going to be Mr. Crow, who keeps inching his way closer and closer to me, like, hi buddy, you got a staring problem? What's up? Also planes. They have a dog. My first sign that you might be a sea witch, or you might be drawn to this path, you're drawn to the water. There, I got it out. Oh my god. If you are a sea witch, or if the sea witch path is calling you, it makes sense that you would be drawn to the ocean, right? Even in any of its forms. Right behind me, this is not the ocean, this is a harbor. I spend a lot of my time here picking up trash along the shoreline, and I love it because I'm a weirdo. No, I'm kidding. There's a reason for it. Actually, within this video, I will explain. But if you are drawn to any body of salt water, if you love the ocean, you might have even had an obsession as a kid with marine biology, you have things along those lines, that is a very strong sign that the sea witch path might be calling you. Second sign, if you are compelled to pick up trash on the beach, if you have that inner eco warrior that you see plastic, or you see someone like leave their bottles on the beach and you're like, absolutely not, that is a very good sign that the sea witch path might be calling you. The third sign that you might be a sea witch is that you have a, some would call it unhealthy, I call it perfectly healthy, obsession with mermaids. This could mean you loved The Little Mermaid, you watched H2O religiously, any mermaid mythology is super interesting to you, like the very, the darker sides of mermaid mythology also fascinate you. You just collect everything mermaid, like, even if that is a tattoo on your body. That took 6 hours and you were there until 1 in the morning, but you still did it, so... Now, I've said it before, you do not have to be a sea witch to work with mermaids. However, I do find that at some point in your magical practice, regardless of whatever water path you go onto, you will wind up stumbling across water spirits in some form, and they might be mermaid adjacent. So like, you could work with the river, and you could work with river spirits, you could work with undines, which are the elemental personifications of water that people often compare to mermaids. You could work with your culture and your history, and they'll probably have some version of a mermaid myth, but you are still drawn to the aspects of spiritual work with mermaids. that is a very huge sign that the sea witch path might be calling you. Number 4, you love seashell jewelry. Love it. Can't get enough of it. Even in the wintertime, you will find an excuse to wear it. You'll put on the pearls and say, you know what, they're close enough to snowballs. Like that. That is a level of dedication that you have to keeping things nautical 24/7. Number 5, the others were like kind of preferences and just like what you're naturally drawn to. This actually brings things back to the tarot reading that I got the other day, and that is you have dreams either heavily involving the water. You might have mermaids in your dreams. You might be receiving signs and messages in your dreams that repeatedly bring you back to the water. When I first started Sea Witchcraft and like started really diving into it, I actually had no idea how much dream work would become intertwined with my practice. I really didn't think it would be something that I heavily focused on until I started doing it. And you know what? It depends on the person, but I truly think that if the water is calling you, and especially if you've been like putting off that call, they won't just stop at the waking hours. Like they'll come into your dreams and be like, I said get to the water. Like I said to get to the water. You need to listen to me. So if you find that your dreams are super water influenced, if you have dreams that continue to literally pull you to the shoreline, yeah, that might be a sign that's that you might be a sea witch. I make this sound like it's a forceful, like you're kicking and screaming and the spirits are like dragging you to the water. And you know what? In some cases, like that might actually be exactly what it is. If you've been ignoring this call for a while and it's actually what you're meant to be doing, you might be dragged kicking and screaming out of your former life. For me, it was a healthy dose of like, I was already really interested in this, but I just didn't know that it was a possibility. And then the water very abruptly reminded me that there's actually nothing that is impossible when it comes to witchcraft. But I'm getting a little too advanced on this one. Let's just go back to the basics. I'm also trying to think about my path and what were some specific signs that drew me. When I pulled back to the basics of my craft, at this point I was working with Greek deities and Roman deities, and it was very overwhelming. I had 4 deities I was working with, very stretched thin, and I was like, you know what, it just didn't feel aligned anymore. So I pulled it back. I was like, let me see if I go back to like the very, very basics of just like when I first got into this, and it was like really fun because everything was possible, and I was like, ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's that? And like I follow those instincts. Where would it lead me? And it led me back to the elements, and it led me back to the water. So if you are in a place right now, like you might be a practitioner, you might have been practicing for years and might be feeling this call to try something different or try something new, pull it back to the basics. I started my practice out with Wicca. So for me, it was pulling things back to, okay, well, what did I like about Wicca? What didn't align with me? And I revisited each of those things and felt out what felt like the best direction to go in. And the best way I can explain it is it felt like flow. You know, I didn't feel like there was any resistance heading in that direction. It's like a job that you really enjoy. The work itself is difficult, but you enjoy the challenge more than it frustrates you to do the thing. Like for me, I'll fully admit my dream life, like my dream work is super easy, super active, but to actually try to sit down and meditate sometimes can feel like pulling teeth. But it is such an interesting challenge to me to overcome this barrier of where the resistance is between myself and stepping into the other world, that I will fully throw myself into it and like make the time and like do the things. And airplane. More signs. This might just be witchcraft in general, but I find myself talking to animals a lot, like, but specifically like sea creatures, and I have found that they have often led me to things that they need. I use crab claws a lot in my practice because it's really good for protection magic, and there's an abundance of crabs around where I live, and so I will sit on the rock sometimes. I'll see like the crabs like, you know, poke their heads up, and one time I was like, I feel like you guys need my help. Like, what do you need help with? Because they kept like poking up and then going back in, and then poking up and then going back in. Like, you're very curious about something, but I feel like you're also trying to get my attention. There was a giant plastic bottle wedged in between like 2 of the rocks where they kept like poking in and out of, and I was like, oh, you want me to remove that? Okay, got it. So I know this is a normal thing with people and their pets, and I do this with my cats as well, but like just extends beyond pets as well. If you find yourself doing this with like seashells and like seaweed and sand. Like I went up earlier and I greeted like the pond fronds behind me and I was like, hi, how are you guys doing? I'm gonna sit here for a while and film a video. I hope that's okay. I went up to the water, said hi water, beautiful day. I would love to work with you and your ambiance to create a beautiful video about signs that my audience might be a sea witch. Are you okay with this? Like I will actively speak out loud to the spirits and the elements and to anyone else that might just look like I'm talking to myself. But in the witchcraft world, that is definitely a sign that you are drawn to nature. And if you're just a little bit crazy, and if people think that you're just a little bit crazy, well then you know what, you're actually doing something right on this path. There's definitely a lot more that I'm missing, but I am running short on time on my break. So the only other thing I will leave you guys with for now, if you are also really, really drawn to the moon, its phases, if you feel really connected to the moon, if you're a woman, your cycle might align with certain moon phases. That's also a really good thing to track as well, just to kind of see where things go. Mine used to really be aligned with like just the full moon, and then it started to shift. But I noticed when it was shifting, there were certain things in my life that were shifting. So really good idea to keep an eye out on that as well, if that does interest you in the first place. But if you are already drawn to the moon, which I don't know, it's so funny because to me it's so obvious. Like, how do you not just look up at the moon whenever you see it and be like, wow, damn. But again, I've been doing this for years, so this is just a natural state of my being. But it was also like what really first drew me to this path, just like watching the moon, how it influenced and pulled the tides. And moon magic has always been something that I've always loved to make. I've loved to make moon water. All different types of water fascinate me as well, but specifically the pull that the moon has on the sea, along with many of these other factors in this video, led me to know that I will work with water. I will work with many different types of water. I will work with the elements, but the thing that will always pull me back is the ocean. I wouldn't have it any other way. This video might be a little bit shorter. I will do a part 2 if you guys are interested. I could also do like a signs that mermaids are reaching out to you, because I also have experience on that and I have stories to tell on that. I hope the audio quality comes through okay. I'm using my headphones, so we'll see. And yeah, leave any questions or comments down below. I usually try to get to all of them, like answering them in the comment section, but I could also do a Q&A if you guys are interested. Whatever you see stars want, I am more than happy to provide. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I will leave you with some beautiful aesthetic shots of the water to prove that I kind of know what I'm doing. Bye guys. Someone please remind me the next time I do something like this to bring a cushion or to sit on a comfier rock, because my butt is numb.